Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 30th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Triple C. Tonight, the streak is over, but gas prices are still stuck at record highs. The average price of a gallon of regular gas in San Diego County dropped by a penny to $6. And this morning, people lined up for hours in Chula Vista to fill up their tanks for free. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado shows us, for some, it was a blessing worth the wait, but others were left running on empty.
Number one, woo! To be number one, that driver left her home at 4 in the morning. And by 7, the line for the gas giveaway in Chula Vista was hours long. It kept going and going and going. So long, car batteries died and other cars were on the brink of running out of gas.
If that little gas pump thing comes on, that light comes on, what does that mean?
That means you're about to run out of gas right here in line. Help is on the way.
And some simply gave up.
So yes, I'm about to head to work right now.
That is, if she can find a way out. But for many, this is a way out.
It's a blessing, truly.
A chance to get a little relief from the pain at the pump, where $6 a gallon is becoming the norm. Barbara Bruce says she's had to cut way back on essentials.
My gas and electric, I can pay that every other month. Food, of course, we cut way back. I go to the grocery store and I just get upset.
I'm forever grateful. I know my family's forever grateful. But it is a bit of a sacrifice out here in the lines and it's unorganized, but we'll get through it. We made it!
Barbara's niece, Janaea Bruce, already knows how she'll spend the money she saved on this tank of gas.
What that means for my family is that now with SDG&E so high, we can put that towards that bill.
It should not be hard for our elected officials to have a heart and actually feel the pain that these folks feel.
The gas giveaway was organized by Shane Harris and the People's Association of Justice Advocates. In addition to gassing up around 300 cars, they also handed out food boxes from the local pantry. Harris says gas prices are forcing working class families to make tough choices and called out politicians who promise relief.
We can't wait till July. Promises about rebates potentially coming down the line and what that might look like. By the time you get to July, people are going to be $1,200, $1,500 in the hole. So $400, what is that going to essentially do?
Roosevelt Williams III, an entrepreneur and philanthropist, says he donated to the free gas event because the need in the community is critical.
We're in a state of emergency, and you can actually just look and see the issue and the concern and see that individuals are making life decisions at the pump.
And after hours of waiting, a little celebration is in order.
It might be small to somebody else, but it's major to me.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
California lawmakers are still debating the best way to bring down record high gas prices. Coming up on Evening Edition, what Democrats want to do instead of getting rid of the gas tax. Time is ticking when it comes to whether thousands of local grocery workers will go on strike. Even right now, picket signs are being made if contract negotiations continue to fail. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne talks to grocery workers hoping for a resolution.
Contract talks between grocery store workers and their employers continued on Wednesday. The United Food and Commercial Workers Union has authorized a strike if progress isn't made in the negotiations with Ralph's, Vons, and Albertsons. But Mike Ryan, a union steward and worker at the Albertsons in Rancho Bernardo, says they are staying optimistic.
I'm optimistic that it won't happen. I was told that both sides have met halfway on certain things. I see some positive things from the conversations that they've been having. The union's been doing a great job keeping us informed.
Ryan says the pandemic proved how valuable and essential grocery store workers are.
For the last couple of years, we've been dealing with this pandemic. We have been giving our customers, 100% of our attention and and the customer service that they deserve. And we've been keeping product on the shelf. We've been showing up to work every day.
Ryan says the raises they've negotiated in the past haven't been enough to keep up with the cost of living in San Diego. Union workers are seeking a $5 per hour wage increase phased in over the next 3 years, along with better benefits. The latest offer from the stores was $1.80 per hour.
Now we are working towards an even larger raise to kind of help us stay afloat, take care of our families. I know a lot of part-time workers that are struggling. And after everything that we've done and the record profits that the companies have enjoyed, not to mention losing some employees along the way due to COVID, I think companies need to really take care of their employees.
While Ryan hopes an agreement will be reached, other workers aren't taking their chances and are preparing for a strike. Maribel McKenzie joined union members at their headquarters in a picket sign making event on Wednesday.
Just in case anything happens or it doesn't go the correct way, we're already preparing for what needs to be done.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The Omicron subvariant that caused COVID-19 cases to skyrocket in the UK is now the dominant strain of the virus here in the U.S. The CDC says BA2 now accounts for nearly 55% of all COVID cases. Health officials warn the highly contagious variant, coupled with lower mask use, may cause an uptick in cases. Dr. Eric Topol says now is the time for people who haven't been vaccinated but have contracted COVID to get one shot.
Because you're not protected against BA1 or BA2 Omicron. And one shot will give you the equivalent of 3 shots.
The FDA has now expanded the emergency use authorization to allow adults aged 50 and older to get a second booster shot. President Biden rolled up his sleeve to get his shot today. In San Diego County, about 55% of those eligible have received a booster, while nearly 1 million people who qualify still have not. From homelessness to childcare and from the environment to caring for refugees, San Diego Board of Supervisor Chair Nathan Fletcher covered a wide range of topics in his second State of the County address last night. Here's more from KPBS reporter John Carroll.
Supervisor Fletcher delivered his speech in the auditorium of the San Diego Continuing Education Complex. It was an invitation-only event. He touted the county's high COVID vaccination rate, more than 93%, one of the lowest death rates in the nation. On the issue of homelessness, he lauded the creation of mobile crisis response teams.
They have already helped more than 941 people, and the program is growing stronger by the day.
Fletcher says 1,000 housing units are either being constructed on county-owned land or in the pipeline. But he called on every government agency to join the county in working together.
Bring your surplus land and let's put together a package to master plan 10,000 units of affordable housing.
Fletcher says the San Diego Foundation is kicking in $10 million to jumpstart the construction of affordable housing. The supervisor says the board will soon consider a $10 million investment to expand the child care workforce and facilities. He called on more families to come forward to foster children. He said the county would redouble its efforts to establish a permanent shelter for refugees. And Fletcher says the county stands to get $100 million out of a settlement with Purdue Pharma, which he promised will help fund a plan to deal with the county's worsening opioid problem. A new climate action plan is underway with the goal of reaching 100% renewable energy in the coming years. And camping. Yes, camping. Perhaps the most unexpected part of Fletcher's speech came toward the end when he announced the Outdoor Experience Program. It's meant to help families who've never fished, hiked, or camped before at county parks like Sweetwater Summit. And when they say help, they really mean it.
Not only will we cover your admission into the park, but we will give you all of the gear, instruction, and assistance any individual or family needs.
Fletcher finished by calling on all of us to seek out our better angels to help advance the quality of life for everyone in San Diego County. Sort of reminds you of the county's motto, the noblest motive is the public good. John Carroll, KPBS News.
A no-fault eviction moratorium will go before the San Diego City Council on Monday. If it goes through, landlords would not be able to force tenants out just to put the unit back on the market for more money. There would be 3 exemptions, however, for owners of properties who want to move family members in, for major renovations to comply with code violations, and if the property is being removed from the rental market.
I don't necessarily begrudge folks for wanting to maximize on their investments. We're ensuring that those upgrades are not simply being made to pursue and chase maximum profit.
Evictions for illegal activity and nuisances would still be allowed under the moratorium, as would eviction for non-payment of rent not related to COVID. The proposed ban would last for 60 days after the pandemic state of emergency is declared over. The Biden administration reportedly plans to end pandemic restrictions on the U.S. border with Mexico in May. The Trump-era policy known as Title 42 has blocked most immigrants from entering the United States since March of 2020. The Biden administration has been under mounting pressure from Democrats and immigrant advocates to end the public health authority. A spokeswoman for the CDC says it's expected to announce a decision this week. Newly arrived Afghan immigrants are settling into their lives in San Diego while thousands of others wait. As more attention turns to the unfolding humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, veterans who worked with the Afghans for decades worry they may be forgotten. Steve Walsh has the story.
Jawed Karimi watches on his phone a recent news report out of Afghanistan. It shows a group of girls being turned away from a school.
We are also human beings.
He interprets the video for me.
We have a right to education.
5 months ago, Karimi arrived in San Diego with his wife and 2 boys, part of a growing number of Afghan refugees. The world watches as the Russian invasion of Ukraine produces millions of refugees almost overnight. But Karimi and other Afghan refugees are still focused on the plight of their country. Many are nervous that the U.S. will move on, leaving thousands of people who work with the Americans stranded. Some remain in hiding.
They change their house, going from this house to another house to hide them. Yeah. And this is a big concern. If they are forgotten, something bad may happen to them.
Sean Van Diver is part of a coalition of mainly veterans groups trying to bring Afghans who work with the Americans to safety. Afghan evac has been working with the Biden administration, but Van Diver says the White House has said very little publicly in months.
We're willing to break, to bend over backwards to help Europeans that we haven't served with at the scale that we have with Afghans, and that we've kind of taken our time on Afghans. Folks with whom we served for 20 years, folks who stood by us on the battlefield.
Afghanistan didn't come up during the president's State of the Union address. Van Diver was particularly frustrated after the Biden administration announced that the U.S. would allow 100,000 Ukrainian refugees into the country.
Nobody's saying that we shouldn't be helping Ukrainians. We all agree. What we're saying is that it would be nice if folks who didn't look like us got the same help as folks who looked like us.
Advocates are still waiting for the administration to get behind a permanent status for thousands of Afghans like Jawad Karimi. He was given a temporary status called humanitarian parole. Naomi Steinberg with the refugee aid group HIAS says it doesn't fix their situation.
It's not a permanent status in any way. It is not an immigration status. It was very important in that it allowed a lot of people to get here very quickly, and obviously time was of the essence. But what has happened now is that they are here with no path to permanency.
Steinberg says the biggest problem isn't the shifting focus from one refugee crisis to another. She says the previous administration gutted the U.S.'s refugee resettlement program.
It's a lot easier to wreck a program than it is to rebuild. And so that's where we are now, slowly but surely building up. And extraordinary progress is being made, but it feels painfully slow for the individuals who are directly impacted, for sure.
Joved Visserat just received his green card, which will allow him to use his degree in computer programming in San Diego. He was beaten by the Taliban as he made his way to the Kabul airport with his family. This was just days before the last American flight left.
One of them had a 1-meter pipe on their hand, and they were beating on my back and my foot. Yeah. And we escaped from them, and somehow we entered to the airport.
He left behind 2 brothers who also worked with an American company. He says the Taliban has searched their homes looking for proof that they work with the U.S.
Our suggestion is that for the American government is that please help the people or for the family of those who were helping the Afghan government and also the American troops in Afghanistan.
Because for many Afghans, time is running out. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
There's a new twist as California lawmakers debate the best way to bring down record high gas prices. The state's gas tax is around 51 cents per gallon, and no one wants to spend more than $100 to fill up their tank. But as Valina Jones reports, experts say the path to reducing prices can be tricky.
As gas prices soar, the pain in drivers' pockets is not going away.
I'll put 150 and I won't fill up.
Have everything just go sky high is ridiculous. We can't afford it.
This week, efforts to suspend the state's gas tax for 6 months from Republican Assembly member Kevin Kiley failed.
This is a common sense measure. It's a lever that we could pull that would give meaningful, immediate relief to millions of Californians.
Instead, it was replaced with amendments from Democrat lawmaker Alex Lee that would increase taxes on gasoline suppliers when the price of gas is abnormally higher than crude oil, arguing suspending the tax would impact other essential needs.
And by defunding the essential money we're putting towards our roadway improvements, the progress we've made in a couple of years is fiscally responsible.
Drivers have mixed opinions on the proposal.
Suspend the gas tax, because that's going to be more immediate results.
And we need to get the rebate back. Next thing you know, everybody's going to be on bikes.
So which approach is best for your pocketbooks? UC Davis resource economist Mark Akerton agrees suspending the tax could hurt money used for roads, but believes taxing suppliers also comes with issues.
If we don't have money to fix the roads, then that can create longer-term problems. It doesn't really matter if you put the tax on at the pump or if you put the tax on at the refinery. The price is going to end up being the same.
Egerton explains giving drivers reimbursement before they get to the pump with no strings attached would be a better solution without creating a negative domino effect.
It's going to cause people to buy more or less than they would otherwise without those taxes or subsidies. And so by just giving everybody a check in the mail, basically, you're not going to distort consumers' decisions.
And that was Valina Jones reporting. Governor Gavin Newsom has his own proposal, and it includes a $400 rebate per registered car with a maximum of 2 per person. And those who don't have cars would get free bus or train fare for 3 months.
Not so bad in the days ahead, San Diego. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Christina Shalhoop. Let's take a look at your weather headlines. Now, that marine layer sticks around, which means morning clouds are in the forecast, but they'll break a little bit later in the day for some sunshine. Temperature is relatively mild. Let's go through the numbers starting here in San Diego County. Oceanside, 55 degrees. That's your overnight low. So as you wake up tomorrow morning, that's what you're going to feel. Escondido down to 51. San Diego, 58 degrees. El Cajon, you'll hit 54 by the time we get to tomorrow morning. Then moving a little bit further inland, Mount Laguna, 43 degrees is your early morning low, and then into Borrego Springs at 55 degrees. Heading into tomorrow, again, we remain relatively pleasant with those clouds in the morning, but some sunshine breaking into the afternoon. So it's not a bad day to be outside, especially if you don't mind some more mild temperatures. Ramona, you'll hit 63 tomorrow afternoon. That's your high temperature. Escondido, 63 as well. Oceanside, 64. And San Diego, you have 67 degrees as your high temperature. Now, the mild weather remains as we head not just into the end of the week, but as we get into the weekend as well. Dry and seasonable weather. Let me show you with your 5-day forecast here. For the coastline, we're looking at the 60s the whole week through, really the mid-60s for the most part, until we finally get a little bit of a warm-up at the very beginning of next week. That trend remaining for inland as well. In the 60s, we get to 69 on Friday, a little bit warmer, but it really takes until Monday for that warmer air to hold. Now let's head into the mountains where things are looking looking a-okay, a little bit cooler in the 50s, the low and mid 50s the entire week through. Those clouds stick around really as we head into the start of the weekend, but overall, you'll have nice, sunny, and comfortable afternoons. Finally, in the desert where we are warming things up a bit, the low and mid 80s on Thursday and Friday. We just squeak into the upper 80s on Saturday with a little more sunshine, but it does take until Monday to get to 90 degrees. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Christina Shalhoop.
A task force in Sacramento is considering how the state can pay reparations to black citizens. It's now deciding reparations will be based on lineage and not race. Shante Passmore reports on the debate behind the choice.
Before the Reparations Task Force can draft a report due this June, it first needs to decide which black Californians would be eligible for compensation.
How are we confused on who should receive this repair?
Members listen to fiery public comments. The question, who's been harmed the most?
Walk us through the different schools of thoughts when it comes to eligibility.
Descendants of enslaved Africans, you can trace a lineage to enslaved person in the United States.
Some task members support race-based eligibility, meaning any black person who's experienced discrimination from the nation's founding until present day. Black Lives Matter demonstrations renewed talks as activists confronted racial inequities following George Floyd's death. Supporters say compensation could go beyond a check and look at quality of life issues such as education, healthcare, and housing. But some caution no compensation can make up for 400 years of maltreatment.
Yeah, I think that the argument over reparations is a bit of a distraction. Now, I can understand the fact that we've done so little to apologize for our treatment of African Americans.
Michael Tanner of the think tank Cato Institute says any discussion should stay at the federal level.
There are very real problems today that need to be addressed, from whether we have police reform or housing reform or changes in the educational system.
Whatever impact that may be, it's clear it'll have to wait. But the California Compensation Plan has a deadline.
That was Shante Passmore reporting. The eligibility also extends to people whose ancestors were free black people. That's if they migrated to the U.S. in the 20th century. A former caregiver is guilty of sexually assaulting one of 3 women at area nursing homes, according to a verdict reached today by an El Cajon jury. But the jury deadlocked on whether ex-certified nursing assistant Matthew Flukiger attacked the 2 other alleged victims. 11 jurors concluded Flukiger was guilty. 1 disagreed. No word yet on whether prosecutors will retry that portion of the case.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, why Russia is continuing its brutal attacks in Ukraine despite pledges to de-escalate. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
It is one for the record books. The Hubble Space Telescope has taken an image of what is thought to be the most distant single star ever seen. They have given it a nickname, Earendel. It is 28 billion light years away and could be between 50 to 500 times bigger than our sun and millions of times brighter. Scientists think it was born about 900 million years after the Big Bang and will help astronomers study the early years of our universe. This week is spring break for many students across San Diego County, but the learning hasn't stopped for some kids who are working on their own original short films. KPBS education reporter MG Perez takes us to City Heights for the movie Making Magic.
See for yourself. Come on. Fine. Cut.
We are on set here with elementary students learning how to make a movie, from stop motion to silent films that need a musical soundtrack. The creative process is tough, starting with the story and the script.
It's mostly about, like, an adventure where we get turned into Legos. Well, we don't have the whole entire thing done yet.
At 11 o'clock, we start shooting, okay?
The Media Arts Center of San Diego is working with the San Diego Foundation to educate these spring breakers with a week of the basics in movie making. They are all between 6 and 12 years old, using green screens, computers, and their imagination. Kind of like school.
But a lot funner because instead of like having to learn a lot about like math and stuff, we mostly learn about how to make a movie.
Be a team player. Your team needs you.
Even at this age, there are creative differences.
You have two different perspectives. If you can combine it together, makes it even better. But if not, you're just going to have to take one for the team. Okay, I'll do your idea this time. Next time, we're going to do my idea.
Devon Jones is an award-winning professional filmmaker and one of the teaching artists hired to share their experience with students. Scholarships and grant money helped many of them attend for free. It's not a competition, according to Larry De Silveira, the education coordinator.
It's about understanding the importance of the process over the end product and being free to make mistakes and to experiment, and that the end product is important, but the process is really more important.
Along with the fun, there are also some life lessons to be learned here, too. Some of them unexpected after what happened in Hollywood at the Academy Awards on Sunday.
What's happening to us?
These creative kids aren't ready for Hollywood yet, but they will be.
By working with us, they'll learn how to behave appropriately and handle stress and handle obstacles with grace.
The movie premieres happen Friday with a showcase for parents and friends.
Oh, that's so cool.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The city of San Diego has a massive backlog of broken street lights. On Morning Edition, what's behind that problem and how the city is working to keep the lights on. And then on Midday Edition, comic book and sci-fi fans unite. What to expect when WonderCon returns for the first time since the pandemic started. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.